There have been a number of developments tonight concerning Ferdinand Marcos. KITV4 News has learned that a plane has been sent to Hawaii ready for Marcos to use. However, we begin with a sudden news conference which Marcos called just a short time ago. He made an announcement concerning his suspected departure. Now, Emmy, you've been looking at this story from several angles tonight. First of all, what did you learn? What happened at the news conference and so forth?
Well, Tim, apparently the State Department has been getting the same information we have, that Marcos may have been planning to leave Hawaii and possibly return to the Philippines in as early as 24 hours. Marcos called the news conference tonight after this letter was hand-delivered to him earlier this evening by Carl Taylor of SingPAC and Elwood McGuire of the State Department. The message had no letterhead and was not even signed. It read that if he would go to the airport, he would be kept from boarding the plane.
Well, I've just been notified by Mr. Carl Taylor, who is supposed to be the representative of the President of the United States, the highest civilian authorities in the United States government, that I will be physically prevented from going aboard any plane that is going to the Philippines.
Had you made any plans to leave Hawaii?
Oh, the plans have already been revealed to you a long time ago. I want to leave the United States to go to the Philippines, especially now that my country is in crisis.
Marcos kept denying he had any immediate plans of leaving, but did reiterate that he wants to return home to fight the growing communist insurgency in his country. Marcos did say tonight that he has had offers in the past from friends with planes to help him go back to the Philippines. Well, one of those friends may have come through this week. KITV4 has learned that a 707 from Miami belonging to a Sachis Seguin arrived in Honolulu on Monday and is parked at the Hemeter Aviation Center. The plane comes from Pan Aviation Company and reportedly has a crew standing by to leave any day. It is not clearly known whether Marcos himself had ordered this plane or whether this was one of those offers he was referring to this evening. However, federal authorities believe that this plane was for Marcos's departure within 24 hours. In any event, the State Department's message tonight is that Marcos cannot leave the U.S. And in another related story, Marcos tonight admitted that on Sunday his wife purchased $2,000 worth of combat boots, fatigues, and uniforms from the military shop on Kalakaua Avenue, but said it was for his bodyguards. He also mentioned that there have been plots to assassinate him and that the uniforms would help him distinguish his own men from others. We also did speak to the owner of the shop, Mr. Boyer, and he did say that it looked like she was purchasing gifts and it didn't seem like it was, you know, ready to outfit an army or anything of that sort. So, Tim, just to recap the story, since a lot of things have happened tonight, somehow the federal government had learned or found out that Marcos was trying to leave Hawaii. This plane, coincidentally or not coincidentally, is here, and the State Department gave Marcos a warning that he may be violating his privileges as a guest here in the U.S. if he should leave. Marcos said he has no plans of leaving, at least not now.
We talked about this earlier, but did you get any indication why this notification to Marcos looked so unofficial, just on a plain piece of paper that had been typewritten, right?
That was...
it didn't have a State Department stamp on it.
Not at all. And it was just delivered just before the news conference. We found that pretty odd, too. And, you know, we had no explanation for it.
It's one of the questions that will have to be answered later.
Right.
The Reagan administration tonight warned Ferdinand Marcos not to return to the Philippines. The former dictator has denied any involvement in the recent coup attempt in his homeland. Marcos told NBC News correspondent Charles Gomez just an hour ago that the warning not to leave Hawaii came from the State Department.
I will be prevented from boarding any plane that would take me to the Philippines.
Mr. Marcos, there was a plane waiting at the airport to take you to the Philippines?
All of these are immaterial. To me, the most important thing is that I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
The United States government is barring Ferdinand Marcos from going back to the Philippines, and the former president says he feels like a prisoner. All day there were rumors he planned to leave. Stacy Sakamoto reports 2 U.S. officials met with Marcos tonight to tell him he could not leave.
I will be prevented from boarding any plane that would take me to the Philippines.
There were rumors all day that Marcos would try to return to the Philippines. Network sources said this was the plane he would be using. The unmarked Boeing 707 arrived at the airport today and remained just off Lagoon Drive tonight. Marcos would not confirm if he had planned to use this plane. But 2 men in a U.S. government car spent more than an hour at Marcos's house tonight. Marcos said one was Carl Taylor, whom he said was a political advisor to CINCPAC, the Commander-in-Chief, Pacific Fleet. Marcos said they told him he would not be able to board any plane headed for the Philippines.
The most important thing is that I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
Marcos told reporters he will ask for a written explanation of their order, and he sounds as if he will not give up.
I have said this before, and I will continue saying it. I will try to get there as soon as I can, even at the risk of my life, try and reach the Philippines to help our people.
Stacy Sakamoto, KGMB News.
Deposed Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos got a stern warning from federal officials yesterday. Don't try to go home. The warning was delivered to the former dictator as this mystery jet sat on the tarmac at Honolulu Airport. Belonging to a Lebanese arms dealer, the plane arrived Monday night. As the attempted coup in the Philippines breathed its last gasps yesterday and Imelda Marcos bought combat clothes in a Waikiki store, the State Department worried Marcos was about to leave.
I will be prevented from boarding any plane that would take me to the Philippines.
Mr. Marcos, have there was a plane waiting at the airport to take you to the Philippines?
All of these are immaterial. To me, the most important thing is that I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
Sources at the airport say the federal agents are keeping watch on the suspected getaway plane. Deposed Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos got a stern warning from federal officials yesterday. Don't try to go home. The warning was delivered to the former dictator as this mystery jet sat on the tarmac at Honolulu Airport. Belonging to a Lebanese arms dealer, the plane arrived Monday night. As the attempted coup in the Philippines breathed its last gasps yesterday and Imelda Marcos bought combat clothes in a Waikiki store, the State Department worried that Marcos was about to leave to help keep the coup alive.
I will be prevented from boarding any plane that would take me to the Philippines.
Mr. Marcos, have there was a plane waiting at the airport to take you to the Philippines?
All of these are immaterial. To me, the most important thing is that I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
Just a short while ago, the suspected getaway plane took off for Los Angeles, apparently without Marcos.
A mystery plane, some said, was waiting to take Ferdinand Marcos out of the country, left Honolulu early this morning without him. It left about 6 hours after Marcos held a news conference at his home last night. Emmy Tumembang has been following that story and has more for us.
The chartered 707 arrived in Honolulu on Monday, carrying a crew of 5 with 2 passengers. The owner is this man, Sarkis Saghanalian, a Lebanese arms dealer with CIA connections. The aircraft comes from Pan Aviation Company based in Miami and landed at the Hemiter Aviation Terminal. Hemiter officials told KITV4 News today that they had been bombarded with calls from the media since the day the plane arrived, inquiring whether Marcos would be leaving on it. That prompted them to notify state authorities to check it out. Then, late last night, Marcos held a news conference in his home to announce that he had been given this letter from State Department officials Carl Taylor and Elwood McGuire. The document, with no letterhead or signature, appeared to be a hasty way of notifying Marcos that if he had plans of leaving, he would not be permitted to board the plane.
I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
What was your response to the gentleman from Washington?
Well, I told them that under these conditions, how do you expect me to live?
Marcos said he had no immediate plans of leaving Hawaii and that he didn't know anything about a plane at the airport. But rumors were rampant, and Philippine Consul Buddy Gomez acted on a tip.
We've been following leads for the past 72 hours. We were able to get confirmation through our friendly resources. When I found out that there was nothing I could do in my level, I blew the whistle and I cried uncle.
And whether Marcos was trying to get home this week or not, this tape was recently intercepted in Manila. It shows Marcos working out, a tape designed to reassure loyalists of his good health. And Mrs. Marcos's purchase of $2,000 worth of combat apparel this weekend, Marcos claims was to outfit his guards. So while the rumors were flying about that Marcos was trying to sneak out of the country, his alleged getaway plane took off at 3 a.m. this morning and landed in Las Vegas.
Talked to the pilot and specifically asked the pilot if Marcos was on board, and it is reported to us that the pilot said hell no.
So while the plane is long gone and presumably on its way back to Miami, the mystery of Marcos going back will remain a mystery, at least for this time being.
Thank you, Emmy. Still many aspects of the Marcos story that remain very complicated and unknown.
For a few hours last night, it looked like Ferdinand Marcos would slip out of Hawaii and make his way back to the Philippines. But a last-minute warning from the U.S. State Department put aside all speculation and any possible getaway plans. Nestor Garcia has this update.
Ferdinand Marcos stayed in seclusion at his Makiki Heights home today. A spokesman says rumors that he left Honolulu overnight are not true. Late yesterday, attention turned to this 707 that had been parked near Hemeter Aviation. The plane arrived late Monday night at about the time the rebellion started in the Philippines. Speculation that Marcos would board the jet for a return to his homeland forced Consul General Tomas Gomez to appeal to the U.S. State Department for help.
I had to cry uncle and I blew the whistle.
Marcos was told last night not to leave, and the warning apparently worked. This morning, the plane left for Las Vegas without Marcos. The jet belongs to Sarkis Salghanalian and his Pan Aviation Company of Miami. Today, the State Department stood by its action.
The Philippine government asked us to do everything we could to prevent this from happening.
I will be prevented from boarding any plane that would take me to the Philippines. I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
The White House also says Marcos was reminded yesterday of the rules of his stay in the United States, and chief among them was his promise not to leave for the Philippines without the permission of the Aquino government. Nestor Garcia, Channel 2 News, Makiki.
Former Philippines President Ferdinand Marcos says he is determined to return to Manila despite a U.S. order which stands in his way. And that plane that some speculated Marcos might use to go left Honolulu today, and he was not on it. Stacy Sakamoto reports that Marcos says he isn't giving up.
I have said this before, and I will continue saying it. I will try as soon as I can.
Recent events in the Philippines fueled rumors that Marcos would try to return to Manila any day. The rumors apparently were true. Two officials in a U.S. government car spent more than an hour at Marcos's house last night. One was Carl Taylor, the foreign policy advisor to CINCPAC, the commander-in-chief Pacific Fleet. Taylor conveyed orders from the State Department in Washington. Marcos would not be allowed to board any plane headed for the Philippines without permission of the Aquino government.
I feel that now I am being treated like a prisoner.
Marcos was asked what he told the U.S. officials.
Well, I told them that under these conditions, how do you expect me to live?
There were reports that Marcos had a private Boeing 707 at his disposal. He would not confirm that. The plane left Honolulu International Airport early this morning without Marcos. Several hours later, the jet was in Las Vegas, heading for Miami. Hawaii's Philippine Consul General says he thinks Marcos could not leave secretly.
Mr. Marcos is security conscious. He will never travel without his security detail. Mr. Marcos is a very sick man. He will not travel without the medical detail. Now, to put the medical and the security detail together in moving about is a big logistical problem that will continue to attract attention, such as what we've been able to drum up, and again, I would say thanks to media surveillance.
Imelda Marcos added to the excitement when she spent $2,000 at a Waikiki store called the Military Shop. The store's manager says Mrs. Marcos and the other people with her bought boots, olive drab t-shirts, camouflage gear, and 2 naval cold weather jackets.
But of course you never really expect someone like that to come in, and when they do, it's a little bit of a surprise.
Ferdinand Marcos told reporters the goods were gifts for his bodyguards and volunteers. About a month ago, Marcos donned a camouflage jacket as he worked out. Marcos says he wanted to show supporters in the Philippines that he was physically fit. The videotape was sent to a loyalist in Manila, but it was intercepted by Aquino supporters. The 69-year-old Marcos also stripped off his jacket to reveal his chest muscles. Marcos was a lot less visible today. There was the usual stream of visitors to the Makiki Heights house, but there was no sign of the former president. Stacy Sakamoto, KGMB News.
The post-Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos denies that a jet leased by a Lebanese arms dealer was chartered to take him back to his homeland. Reports that Marcos was planning to return to Manila were set off by a coup attempt in the Philippines and the arrival of a mysterious Boeing 707 at Honolulu Airport. Last night, Marcos said he did not know the arms merchant and had no agreement with any of the groups who have offered to fly him back to the Philippines.
Ferdinand Marcos held yet another news conference at his Makiki home last night. He was trying to lay to rest rumors that he was going back to Manila soon. Marcos says he does not want to argue with the Reagan administration after being warned not to leave Hawaii.
What can I do? Poor little me, who was your ally for so many years, who fought with you in Bataan, Corridor, and in the underground. All these stories about me supposedly agreeing to take a plane that was supposed to be standing by, a 707, is incorrect. It's not true. I don't know who the owner is.
Marcos also told reporters he believes 3 assassins have been sent from the Philippines to kill him. Marcos said he learned of the assassins from sources in the Philippines he says are always accurate.